Well, I mean, I find it very useful to have been familiar with music, to have been a student of painting, to have studied literature, and to have, above all, to have studied film technique, mainly by looking at other people's films, mainly American films.
Je pense qu'il m'a été très très utile d'être quelqu'un qui connaissait la peinture, qui était cultivé, qui aimait la musique et qui avait regardé la technique du cinéma à travers d'autres.
It is possible, of course, for a director to know only direction and nothing else, so that he works with collaborators as far as music goes, or photography goes, or writing scenarios goes. He can always work with another person or several persons, but then he cannot call his films entirely his own work. He has to share the credit with others. Yes, but I was having to do other things. I had a job in an advertising agency, and when the work on the film would stop, there was no knowing when the work would be resumed, or whether it would at all be resumed, whether we will ever have any money to resume. So I had to go back to my work in advertising. But I had, of course, subconsciously, the film was always at the back of my mind.
Mais bien sûr, inconsciemment, le film occupait tout mon esprit, et durant tout le tournage.
L'idée de découvrir Apu par ses yeux au moment où on entrouvre la toile dans la déchirure d'une toile, cette idée, l'idée de découvrir Apu à travers ses yeux, elle est venue quand?
I didn't quite get that.
If I can explain it, the first shot of Apu, when we ever see him
in
the
I see. That's through the hole in the sheet.
Yeah.
When the sister wakes him up.
Mm-hmm. With one eye.
Well, there was a hole. Obviously, I wanted to do a little thing with poverty. I have this, torn clothes are very much part of poverty. Clothes with holes and clothes which is torn like rags. So I have this old woman also in one point. She puts on puts out her head through a hole in a sari, complains to the brother that you don't give me a new dress, but I look at this. And so I found this.
Translation, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Now, for Opu also, I felt that the first introduction would be very interesting because he has been asleep and he is being woken up by his sister, and since the sheet that covers him has holes in it, obviously it would be very, very interesting to show an eye through the hole, because the hole is already a symbol of poverty, and yet through the hole you have this lovely image of the boy's eyes. And I thought it would make an interesting interesting introduction to the boy.
Et l'adulte qui joue Apu sont tous des comédiens étonnants de beauté et de force morale. Je voudrais savoir si vous avez eu beaucoup de difficultés à les trouver.
Yes, well,
extraordinary.
Oui, bien entendu, c'était très difficile.
They were all found in very different ways, and they were all. It was all a question of a great deal of luck, because the boy who plays Apu in Patamachali was right next door, and my wife discovered him playing on the roof. And the second boy we just found in a streetcar, in the tram, returning from school with his friends. And I immediately approached him. I said, "Would you like to act in a film?" He said, "Yes."
De chance.
Et celui qui joue l'enfant d'Apu, dans le monde d'Apu, dans le troisième film, celui qui joue l'enfant désagréable.
Well, he happened to be the son of a friend of Soumitra Chatterjee, who plays the older Apu. Mm-hmm. And I thought he was just right, and the marvelous eyes and very expressive face. Well, there are very interesting children around in Calcutta, and I've used children in many of my films. Some of them are very intelligent, some have to be handled very carefully. It's not that children are always very good actors, natural actors.
Je voudrais savoir si il se souvient certainement de ce moment, si ce moment était prévu au moment où il l'a tourné, ou bien est-ce que c'est une idée qui est venue au montage?
Oh
Or did
yes,
happen-
it was planned because I wanted to show them leaving their environment and going out into the open country because the train lines were quite far away. And in order to suggest that I needed at least one vast, big, long shot with them running away.
The question also was what comes when you are editing the films? Do ideas come when you edit?
Yes, more and more. Yes, many ideas come. But in Pather Panchali, because it took 2.5 years, I was most of the time thinking about it, even in the middle of my other work. Small ideas I would jot down. No, I will give one example. Which was not in the script.
Qui n'était pas dans le script.
The scene where those insects dance on the water surface. Now, those shots were taken on days when the weather had turned bad and we had no shooting to do possible. There was a pond next to the house where we were shooting.
Il y avait une mare à côté de la maison où on
Suddenly one
tournait.
day I noticed the behavior of these insects and I took some shots, not knowing whether I'll be using them or not. But in the end, I found a place for them. In the novel, she is fond of the rain and she gets drenched in the showers, but it is not followed by pneumonia and death. In the film, I made it the cause of the tragedy, because the story lacked this kind of a progression. It was not the cause-effect progression, but to give it a strength of structure. And
C'était dramatique.
I made it because the old woman also dies because of Durga's mother's cruelty, in a way. Although the cruelty is there in the book and the death is there, but they are not interlinked. But in the film, everything is interlinked.
Or, correspond au moment où, dans le monde d'Apu, tout à fait au début du monde d'Apu, dans Apu, le troisième, Apu, sur son balcon, s'offre lui aussi à la pluie.
Kind of remembrance.
Yes, it is definitely a remembrance.
Oui, c'est tout à
Because
fait
it is the
un rappel.
village boys and the village girls who are more familiar. It's village boys and village girls who are more in the habit of getting drenched in the rain, dancing in the rain, accepting the rain. So although in Apu Sansar, Apu is a city boy, his memories of childhood are still very strong. That is certainly a link.
Et ça, c'est un lien, bien sûr.
Mais dans tous vos films, c'est que le côté sacré de l'eau et le côté absolument naturel et quotidien de l'eau sont complètement reliés.
Yes, I get it. Yeah. Yes, okay. Not always very consciously, but maybe subconsciously, yes.
Du matin donne un sentiment de purification. Moi, j'aimerais savoir ce que vous entendez par purification. Quel est le sentiment indien de la purification? Parce que c'est un sentiment que nous connaissons mal.
No, but you see, this is the ablution, this bath they have to have every morning to cleanse themselves. It's a religious ritual.
Qui doit avoir tous les matins pour se purifier.
Most Hindus, in any case, people who go to live in Benares go for religious reasons. But definitely the bath in the river, they could bathe at home also. But the bath in the river is definitely a religious ritual. Well, it's supposed to purify them of their sins and all that.
Le fait que vous ayez perdu, vous aussi, votre père très tôt, n'a pas joué dans le scénario du film et transformé le film entre une histoire d'amour entre un fils et une mère.
Yes, and also the relationship, because I was an only son, and well, Durga was dead anyway, so Apu was the only child left. And the relationship between the widowed mother and a growing adolescent son is very much what I had gone through. But the difference was that I had always been a city boy. Yes, so, but I could see the small psychological elements, the play of, for instance, the mother, the day Apu is supposed to leave and go back to the city, she hesitates to wake him up. She would rather that he missed the train. Yes, well, that is a feeling that I was familiar with. But this is it doesn't go very far.
Mais ça ne va pas très loin, de toute façon.
Because the whole lifestyle, the Orthodox Hinduism, and everything that goes with Apu does not belong to me. But intellectually, I could grasp it.
C'est-à-dire accepter que sa femme soit morte alors qu'il avait fini par l'adorer. Cette idée de l'acceptation, est-ce que c'est une idée qui vous est personnelle?
No, the fact that he agreed to marry under those circumstances is more out of a moral compulsion, because he felt that this girl was being condemned for life. And it might have turned out to be a very unfortunate marriage, but it didn't. And that is the interesting thing, because it turned out to be, until the moment of Aparna's death, it turned out to be a very happy marriage with love, which grows after the marriage.
C'est une histoire d'amour prodigieuse et avec très 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 peu de choses, très très peu d'éléments. Je voudrais savoir comment vous êtes arrivé à nous faire comprendre le bonheur prodigieux d'Apu et de sa compagne.
Well, you see, I knew in the circumstances that I couldn't go very far in showing intimacy. Because in those days, 30 years or 25 years ago, it would be very difficult to go beyond a certain stage physically. So I accepted it as a challenge. I wanted to show intimacy without showing the conventional details of physical intimacy. And that's why that hairpin, this little comic details of their being together. And I think it was Renoir when he saw it in Paris. He said, "You show love without intimacy, without showing a single kiss," which I found very interesting. The fact that there was a new curtain, there was two pillows instead of one. Yeah. Well, you see, that her death had to be made very, very poignant and very touching. So the intimacy had to be shown as strongly as possible.
La mort devait être rendue très forte dramatiquement, donc il fallait que l'intimité soit aussi présente que possible.
Vous avez parlé de Renoir, il me semble qu'il y a un rapport et la façon dont le mari, dans le monde d'Apu, finit par accepter la mort de sa femme.
No, wait, let me tell you. Apu does not really, he's tremendously affected by the death of his wife. Suicide.
Il veut se suicider.
And then he renounces everything. And he does something very strange. He holds the son responsible for the mother's death. All this had to be shown and played up more than in the novel in order to make his coming back to life and responsibility and accepting his son.
Salon de musique. Alors moi je voudrais savoir une simple question, je voudrais savoir si vous n'êtes pas étonné par l'extraordinaire retentissement de ce film en France.
Very surprised.
Très surpris.
Yeah, because I'll tell you why. When I made Jalsaghar after the box office failure of Aparajit, I felt that I was making a film specifically for the Indian audience, dealing with Indian music, Indian dancing, very, very intensely Indian story. Certainly in those days I felt that this film is never going to go out of the country. But of course, even in early days, it was shown in London, and I was quite surprised by the critics have even gone so far as to say that is their favorite film. Not just my film, but any of it. But I continue to be surprised.
Et je continue à être surpris. And if I may add, it's also one of my favorite films.
Oh, thank you.
Non, mais je voudrais quand même qu'il raconte l'histoire, parce que tout le monde n'a pas lu ce livre, qu'il raconte l'histoire merveilleuse de la découverte du décor, du château.
Oh, not only that.
Shortly.
Yeah. You see, we were looking for an old nobleman's house, a river.
Yeah.
We traveled all around Bengal and rejected palace after palace, and we gave up.
Tous les palais.
Somebody suggested, it's only 60 miles, why don't you go and look at this house? And then we went and we saw this fantastic palace, which was straight out of the book. And it turned out later that the author of the story had this particular house in mind when he wrote the story. And it had a strange quality because the river was normally about a mile away from the house. But after the rains, it would be 5 yards. Yes, because you remember the scene where the elephant stands and the lorry goes by, raising a cloud of dust. That part is, after the rains, is all river. Anyway, we were able to use that in all seasons. After the tragedy of the two deaths, there's a shot of rain on the fountain, and when the man is totally isolated, the isolation is enhanced by the fact that he's in an island.
L'acteur qui est extraordinaire, qui est-ce?
Et moi j'ai un mot à rajouter.
Oui.
C'est Chabi Biswas, c'est un des très grands acteurs de Ray. Il joue dans le salon de musique, il joue dans Kanchenjunga et il joue dans La Déesse. Et moi je voudrais savoir.
He had a very brief guest appearance in La Pierre Philosophale. But that's only too small.
I didn't say the Pierre Philosophale. Il avait aussi une petite apparition dans La Pierre Philosophale.
I see. Well, anyway, he was in 3 films, playing 3 major roles, yes. I would have used him again if he hadn't died.
And was he important in the conception of the film itself?
Very, very important.
Il était très important dans la conception même du film, une importance majeure.
But it was the first time that I was using a really big professional actor. And in the beginning I was a little unsure as to how to handle him. I gave him a considerable lot of freedom, not always with good results. And then I started controlling him more and more, and he became more and more friendly, and it became a wonderful relationship. He is so unique, he was so unique that there are certain parts for which there are no actors anymore. And those stories I cannot do because he is no longer there. You see, I have often worked with amateurs and quite successfully, but for certain types of roles you need highly trained professionals.
C'est possible. Vous dites que à partir de Beethoven, on peut concevoir un récit, alors qu'à partir du raga, on ne veut pas concevoir de récit. Alors, le salon de musique est pourtant un récit.
Whether it's made from the raga or not, I don't. I was not thinking of a musical structure when I made the film. But I was following the lines of the story. But it is such a simple story, really, that. And I remembered, but I had to keep in mind that there was a lot of music to be woven into the texture of the story. And when the music was actually used, much of the camera style and editing style followed the pattern of the music. Yeah, but that is purely on an abstract decorative level.
Entre la culture européenne et la culture indienne, ou en tout cas la culture bengali.
That is possible, but then of course... That is for you to tell me.
Mais c'est à vous de me le dire.
Yes, yes.
Oui, c'est
that is true. Yes.
Oui, c'est vrai. C'est un lien.
Yeah.
C'est une idée importante pour vous?
I think it is, because I know to what extent, for instance, these noblemen were real connoisseurs of music. And after the end of this landlordship, after the end of this zamindari of feudalism, the musicians had no sponsors and they didn't know where to go. That is one aspect of feudalism which has, and I was also, of course, I was showing the end of the film suggests the end of feudalism. It's like anything that ends, anything with a big traditional background which ends without realizing that it is ending. There is a pathos in that which
Il y a un pathos là-dedans
which I wanted to portray in the film.
Que je voulais représenter.
Alors, vous rendez toujours les images de vos personnages et de vos films extrêmement présentes, mais exactement dans le même temps, une très grande mélancolie s'empare des images. Comment faites-vous?
You're talking of Salon de Musique now?
Salon de musique ou à Pu.
Oh yes. Perhaps there is an element again of pathos in if you are looking at a character with a great deal of sympathy. Then there must be an element of sadness in that, I think. Perhaps, I'm not sure.
Peut-être, je ne suis pas sûr.
Yes, I hadn't noticed it the way you have done. But of course, it is, now that you mention it, certainly is true. It certainly is true.
C'est vrai que cette idée de l'image qui prend les personnages n'est pas une image qui est à la limite du vampirisme même.
Oh, I see, I know what you mean.
Because of the light.
Well, now that you mention it, because it was not consciously done, but certainly I'm conscious of image as such. Yes, but when you make a film, I think when I make a film, I'm thinking primarily of telling the story, I mean, very basically, telling the story as interestingly as it's very basically but to make it interesting, one uses so many devices. It no longer remains very simple. But you see, but much of it happens on a subconscious level. And I don't even know how some of my best ideas come. For instance, the original script didn't have the candles going out. It came in a flash like that, you see, completely. And when I told this to Chubby Biswas, he was terribly excited. He said, now you've got something. Like that in many films and many of my best ideas. For instance, in Pather Panchali, you have this thing of him throwing the necklace into the pond. Comes, going, separating, and then coming back and closing it. That is completely accidental. It came like that. What I'm concerned with is that I want the most major moments in a film where traumatic moments where things take a turning to be visual. I do not want to use words there.
Je ne veux pas utiliser les mots à ce moment-là.
If possible.
Si c'est possible.
I try as much as possible to make it visual, image for
de trouver une image pour ça.
Yes.
Ou un son, par exemple la mort de Durga, quand le père apprend la mort de Durga, quand le père ou la mort du père dans Parajito. Death of father's death.
Yes.
And you the sound, and also in Jalsagar, the sound is very important. The image of the bourgeois is also very much made with the sound. For the sound of truck, the sound of the
dynamo.
Yes, the dynamo.
Of course, the dynamo.
Dynamo, and also the music of Bridge on the Kwai River.
Traduis, parce que tu te laisses emporter. Tout à fait étonnant, et tout d'abord par leur noblesse. Quelle est la place de la femme dans votre travail et dans votre vie?
Well, I think I share this interest in women with some of our best authors also. And maybe not just
Could you get a bit closer?
And maybe not just India, but all over the world you find great female characters conceived by writers. So I've been very sympathetic and to, for instance, to the woman in Charulata or the woman in Mahanagar, but they were not originally conceived by me. But the fact that I chose to do those films is because I had 100% sympathy with the women, since I'm making another film. My present film, which I'm working on at the moment, is the Tagore story, is also about the central character is a woman. So this has fascinated me, and I'm sure, again, that being a man myself, there is, I don't know how to put it, but I find women more interesting.
Je trouve que les femmes, en général, sont plus intéressantes.
And the study of women more interesting than
et que
study
l'étude
of
des
men.
femmes est plus intéressante que l'étude
And I
des hommes.
think also my personal experience is that women, by and large, have a stronger fiber. They have a stronger character. Possibly because the nature has built them physically less strong. In order to balance that, they have been endowed with a stronger generalized. There are weak women also.
Je ne peux pas généraliser, il y a des femmes faibles aussi.
But by and large, if you compare, I find I'm more impressed by the natural integrity of women.
You are more impressed.
I am more impressed.
Mais d'en parler, c'est que je me demande à quel degré vous êtes conscient de partager votre admiration pour les femmes avec des gens aussi différents que le Suédois Bergman ou l'Italien Antonioni.
Yes, I'm bound to be conscious. Well, yes. Yes, but are they the only two directors that one can think of?
Est-ce que ce sont les deux seuls directeurs auxquels on peut penser sur ce sujet? No, of course there's Mizoguchi, and there are so many others. Il y a bien sûr Mizoguchi.
Non, mais enfin, la faiblesse de l'homme. Les hommes que vous nous présentez sont parfois charmants, enfin comme le père dans Pather Panchali, charmant, cultivé, raffiné, mais un peu faible.
Yeah, but that is conceived by the author. I'm exact reproduction of the authors. But then in Charulata, Amol is weaker than Charu. Certainly, the young lover. Well, he doesn't know that he's a lover. He only learns of her interest much later. So you find these, I think by and large, my women are stronger than the men.
Je constate que les femmes sont toujours très très belles dans les films de Satyajit Ray. Alors est-ce que ça tient au Bengale ou est-ce que c'est un choix?
Naturally, one has to make one's choice, but there are obviously beautiful women in Bengal, but not just in Bengal. Well, that I suppose is a question of doing certain things at certain moments which seem, and these things can be done very simply by a movement of the eyes, or as long as they are evocative, they are suggestive of certain profound things, they become very, very expressive and beautiful. I think it's a question of being aware of the psychology of the character very strongly. I don't know if you know my film, The Nights in the Forest.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, there also you have 7 characters, and each character is gradually developed, and so every facet is known, so that they become full-rounded human. And once you know a character deeply, the audience, the slightest gesture will make a point.
Une chose sur laquelle je voudrais vous voir insister, c'est votre relation d'amitié, de sympathie, de complicité avec vos comédiens. Il semblerait que c'est à partir de là que vous obteniez quelque chose de très fort.
Yes, that is true, and the fact that they are all very, very intelligent, that they are in course of filming, or even when you see, there is, before the film starts, there is this session where I read the script read the entire scenario to my main actors, not everybody, but the main actors. The way I read the parts should suggest to them how I want the acting to be. And the intelligent ones among them will already know what is expected of them. And during shooting, if they have the slightest doubt about anything, I'm prepared to explain everything to them. Motivations, why they have to stand up and sit down, and why everything. My actors are all used to my method now. So
et mes acteurs sont très habitués à mes méthodes. C'est très facile. C'est une relation très harmonieuse.
Pour en venir aux années 70, il semblerait bien, enfin à travers les films que je connais, parce que j'ai évidemment pas tout vu, mais à travers un film comme L'Intermédiaire.
It has happened, certainly in The Middleman you notice this, and I openly admit that I was...
Oui, c'est le cas pour L'Intermédiaire. Yes, I was translating. So.
Yeah, I have been aware of the tremendous amount of corruption that surrounds us at the highest level.
Au plus haut niveau.
At the highest level, and it permeates the entire fabric of society. So, a certain degree, when there is no easy solution, I know there is no easy solution.
Il n'y a pas de solution facile.
A certain pessimism and a certain bleakness is bound to creep in. And in Piku, of course, it's not the same reason.
Dans Piku, ce n'est pas la même raison.
It's not the same reason in the sense that it doesn't deal with corruption as
such. Ça n'a pas à voir avec la corruption.
I think this deals with a situation which is very, very old. It has nothing to do with modern urban civilization or modern urban life. It is a very, very old situation.
C'est une très vieille situation.
Could happen
Comme appartenant à la patrie du cinéma ou bien à votre patrie nationale qui est l'Inde et le Bengale.
Oh, I see. Well, certainly that.
Oui, certainement la patrie du cinéma.
Certainly that also, but again, my roots are in Bengal completely.
Mais mes racines sont au Bengale complètement.
But yes, I'm a Bengali filmmaker. When I say filmmaker, I'm immediately aligning myself with all the other filmmakers. I can talk to cineasts from all over the world, and we use the same language. When I make films, my roots are there, and I have to think of being a Bengali. I have had offers from many years ago. No, I don't think I will have the same confidence.
Je ne pense pas que j'aurai la même confiance.
And there is so much to be done.
Il y a tant à faire d'où je viens.
Inexhaustible subject.
C'est un sujet inépuisable.
Yes. I may do a film in the English language, maybe.
Je pourrais faire un film en anglais.
But involving Indians.
Mais d'ailleurs, l'Angleterre, il semblerait que c'est une part tout de même dans votre... que la culture anglaise, spécialement anglaise, compte pour vous.
Well, we were brought up studying English and English literature. Yeah, so I am a product of both East and West, I think.
Je suis presque également.
And so But again, I must repeat that as a filmmaker, my roots are deep in India. You must define reserve.
The way you keep your secrets for yourself, the way you...
When I'm talking and when I'm giving an interview?
Also.
When you're not revealing the very deep of your films, for instance.
We see, sometimes it is not possible to reveal
Parfois,
the
ce n'est pas
depths.
possible de révéler les choses secrètes.
If they were so easy to reveal the depths, then there would be no problem. I wouldn't mind revealing them. But there are certain things I don't even know myself. I have one of the few directors who have, in India certainly, who has written about his own work.
Je suis un des rares cinéastes qui écrit.
At a certain point, it is impossible.
Mais au-delà d'un certain...
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.